Hi there, you're listening to the Trading Through Coronavirus podcast from Business West with me, Nigel Barker. We've got a special edition of the podcast today as Ian Mean, the Business West Gloucestershire Director and former editor of the Western Daily Press, chats to the Managing Director of Business West, Phil Smith.
Phil, 3 weeks into the lockdown, where do you think business is now? Just surviving or in intensive care?
I think unfortunately we are a bit of a calm before the storm, Ian, I sense. People have coped with the lockdown on the personnel front and they're struggling by, but I think there's a danger of the money running out. So I worry if this goes on for up through April and through May, then where we'll see a massive spike in business closures and redundancies.
Yeah. Now, there's been quite a lot of heroes. Obviously, the NHS are the big heroes. But what about business? What are your thoughts on the heroes and zeros of business?
Yeah, at the moment, it's interesting, isn't it? When we, through the whole Brexit brouhaha, we had lots of chats about, migrant workers and low-paid workers. And interestingly, that cohort of our workforce is currently holding us together. The delivery drivers, the nurses, the carers, the people, the low-paid people there. The rest of us, high-paid people, are sitting here playing on technology, and they're out there on the front line. So that's an interesting reflection, I think, on the strange discussions we had in the last 3 years about the calibre and the value of our workforce, and when push comes to shove, who we really need.
Now, the zeros in terms of business, your thoughts about the banks?
Yeah, I think the banks are patchy. I think I saw yesterday there's a bit of a blame game being started already between the Treasury pointing the finger at the British Business Bank, pointing the finger at the retail banks, pointing the finger back at Treasury, as to say, it's your bit of bureaucracy that's holding us up. There's no doubt that the rules still are really, if you're a bad business, you won't get lent to. So there's lots of businesses, there's lots of zombie businesses around, and we know some of them around this part of the world, and they won't get lent to, I'm afraid, despite the best words of the Chancellor and the protections, because the banks are still on the line for some of it. So I think you'll find that it's not a red herring, this C-bills product, but it's not going to be the saviour that many people thought it was. And partly, we know internally Business West trying to organise 200 people in the crisis, trying to organise 20,000 people in banks is a challenge. The sheer admin challenge is enormous, but at the moment, there's a bit too much bureaucracy, and it's not hitting the front line at the moment. And because of that, as I said, you will see more and more businesses go to the wall in the next 2 months, maybe never to return.
And what about councils? We've got a bit of a problem, haven't we, about delivery of small grants to small businesses, particularly high street businesses.
Yeah, and I think you'll find some councils up and down the country are parading themselves quite well and saying they're getting lots of money out. I learned yesterday that Bristol City Council had done about 14% of the money had gone out. We must do better there. And again, local authorities like the banks have their own challenges. They've been underfunded, the lack of staff, people off sick. But nonetheless, in the meantime, while they're trying to sort themselves out, and they are scared a little bit, because if they lend to Phil Smith Limited, if they give a grant to Phil Smith Limited when they shouldn't have done, the government will claw that back. So they're being slightly cautious, but it's not helping us at the moment. We at Business West have just put in a suggestion to British Chambers of Commerce to start a local authority league table up and down the country to see who is the best and who is the worst. It's not quite naming and shaming because they've got their own challenges, but we need to hold these organisations to account, because all the best will in the world, all the fantastic decisions the government have made being bold and expensive, add up to a crock of shit if it's not getting out there to the front line.
Absolutely. Now, coming out of this, we need a plan, don't we? The Marshall Plan after World War II was the Americans did this amazing plan for Western Europe. Don't we actually need government to start looking at this now?
That's a really good point, Mr. Mean. I think I read on the FT on the weekend that during the middle of the Second World War, we're talking 1941 to 44, Churchill and Roosevelt between them managed to find times for things like the IMF, the United Nations were started. The NHS was started. Beveridge Report was in 1940s. There's some fantastic thinking. We do need a government that can lift its head out the mug and bullets for half an hour and spend some time thinking about the next next 18 months, the next 10 years. So yeah, I think there is some leadership needed. Talking to the regional, to the WECA yesterday, they think that fiscal stimulus they're hoping it'll come through them and through devolved authorities because they know best. But someone needs to put their head above the parapet and start showing some long-term leadership. Otherwise, we'll be fighting the crisis, and when we come out of it, we'll be in the right mess still.
Don't we need someone like Heseltine, dare I say, heading this up? Someone with a bit of go about them.
Yeah, it's a pity that our Prime Minister, for all what you think about him, he's one of those sorts of leaders, and he's not doing any. He's laying out on a bed in Westminster, isn't helping us. So we wish him well to get recovered. But I think Boris could be that sort of leader. But yeah, a Heseltine type character that grabs it by the scruff of the neck and takes it forward. But it's difficult because it's quite difficult to openly talk about 12 months away when people are living and breathing crises every day now. So it's getting the timing of that right. But certainly behind closed doors, Ian, they should be thinking a la Marshall Plan, a la United Nations, a la IMF, a la NHS. Those sorts of thoughts should be putting in place now with the clever people in Whitehall, definitely.
Yeah. Now, Business West, trading through coronavirus, tremendous response to that website from business.
Yeah, I think we've proven ourselves to be the kind of the first responders for business. I'm not taking any credit away from the nurses and the carers, the people doing the real health stuff. But in terms of business, we have proven ourselves to be the place that people run to when they want help and advice. And my hat's off to Matt and you and Mary and the comms team and people. They've worked night and day to try and get some of this information out there, and the message is getting out there. We're now syndicating this information to Surrey and Hampshire and Sussex and Dorset as well. So it's good work. We can't wave magic wands. All we can do is bring information to companies about what's out there as clearly as we can. On the other hand, we can feed back to government where the gaps are and/or where the support packages aren't working, aren't getting out there. So just keep the pressure on. Adam Marshall in BCC is doing a fantastic job, more power to his elbow. I think he has better access to ministers than he's ever had in his life. And we're proving the worth of Chambers of Commerce, and Adam can't do it without us.
Now, message of hope in these difficult times. Message of hope for business in our region.
Yeah, I think I will come to that, Ian. But I'm trying to think through as to what happens next when we're through the immediate crisis, the lockdown. So let me go there for a little bit. Thinking about companies and sectors, is it customers you need coming out? Is it suppliers? Is it your staff? Or is it cash? Or is it some combination of all four of those? And that'll be the challenge. It'll differ sector by sector. The construction industries, the airports, the food retailers, the nightclubs, the pubs. So I think each sector needs to think about, maybe it's a bit of national work, and certainly WECA will take some lead on this. What will each sector need to, what help will they specifically need? So I think there's something to do with thinking through that. There's no doubt we're going to be back to unemployment and startups. In the last 3 or 4 years, Nigel, this has all been about scale-ups and that kind of language. We're going to have probably millions unemployed again, and startups will be the new vogue again. So I think the government and the organisations like Business West need to think about how can we help startups. HMRC challenges, there's going to be, what does Adam Marshall say, like 50% of the companies are going to have 75% of their employees furloughed. Next, that's an awful lot of, there'll be challenges, there'll be tribunals, there'll be a whole bunch of admin stuff that people need to cope with as well as the day jobs. But there will be longer term societal challenges, I think, that'll impact us that we won't have thought of yet. I'm thinking about the agility of businesses. I'm thinking about universal income. There's been some discussion in the last 3 or 4 years in the world, isn't there, about should we have universal income? Finland tried it. I don't think it worked very well. We're almost there, guys. Government's paying half the workforce out of the treasury. It's paying self-employed people. We're almost at universal income. Maybe it's time to look at that idea. Customer demand worries me. Customers have got used to, we have got used to in the Smith household not going out and spending money on food and drink and restaurants and buying shirts and things. Customers will be more wary because they're once bitten, twice shy of spending cash. They might want to hoard it and save some more. No bad thing. They might get used to being less materialistic. They might get used to spending. Those societal impacts will have huge impact down the line with all sorts of businesses and customers. And then simple things in industry like just in time. I mentioned this to Nigel last week. Just in time doesn't work when things fall apart. You might find warehouses growing up all of a sudden and people stocking things in their larders, in their factories, in the back offices, new warehouses. You might find that there'll be changes like that. So there will be winners, Ian, there will be losers. We talked about office demand, we talked about business travel. God knows when that will pick up again. Office demand, you might find all those offices in Bristol turning into flats the next 10 years. But warehousing, I've picked up something today that people are having more sex and making more babies. So if you're in food, if you're in baby food or nappies or prams, now is your time to start wrapping up your production. Positive, I think we've learned, haven't we? We've learned what's important. We've learned about, just thinking of my own company and what's really important, the people that I really need when push comes to shove, and people who are less important. I think there's some real messages all companies will be facing about that. I think, as I mentioned to Nigel last week, reputations are being built and ruined as we speak. Reputations with your customers, with your suppliers, with your staff. Here's a chance to come out of this with your reputation burnished and polished, or to have it trashed. We can all think of those organisations that are not doing very well on that front. So, positive thing is I think companies are getting used to the new norm, technology, AI, huge ramifications there. I think we're pulling together a bit as a society. As I said, materialistic things might fall down. I don't think it's a bad thing, and probably most of all, respect for those lowly paid but important workers that we've been missing for the last 20 years. Greed has been good, and lunches for wimps and all that stuff. Now we know that delivery drivers, nurses, bin men are really important.
And what about to me, the main message is people. That's presumably your view as well. People.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying working with my exec board on a daily basis and seeing them work as a team. And I was reflecting, if I went down with coronavirus, a la Boris, who would be my Dominic Raab? Maybe I don't need one. They work together as a team. James steps in, Matt steps in, Joe steps in, Andrea pipes up, Jessica keeps us all calm, and Gemma keeps us on the straight and narrow. It's just a wonderful example of teamwork out of necessity. And we're having sessions throughout our organisation with the operations directors and the HODs, trying to get them just to meet each other virtually, just to keep the human contact up best we can. I think we'll definitely come out of this stronger. As I said to Nigel on Friday, trying to triangulate between keeping Business West financially alive, keeping our staff engaged, positive and happy, and doing the best for our 23,000 businesses at the moment is quite a difficult balancing act. But it's no different from what every other owner, MD is trying to do without the whole country, Ian.
And we're surviving.
We're definitely surviving, and our reputation is going through the roof at the moment. We're seen as being ahead of the curve, and I think chambers of commerce generally are seen as being ahead of the curve, pragmatic, connected, whereas some other organisations are being a bit bureaucratic, a bit slow, a bit strategic, and they can't get out of the kind of their normal routine. Whereas with and Ian, yourself, and Nigel are just proving again that you can be good, but you have to tell the story as well. You have to tell the story, otherwise you're keeping it in the third drawer down. However good you are at doing things, you have to tell the story, otherwise people don't know. So thank you, guys. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Ian Mean and Phil Smith in conversation there. Really, really good points in there, mate, I think. Don't forget to follow the Trading Through Coronavirus podcast through your usual channels, or follow the hashtag Trading Through Coronavirus, or visit the website www.tradingthroughcoronavirus.co.uk. Thank you very much. See you soon.